their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will kindly stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend James L. Porter, United Methodist Church, Midlothian. Reverend Porter, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. I was telling Susan that I've lost track of how many times I've given the invocation here in the Senate, but I just wanted to say publicly that it never gets old, and I consider it an honor and a privilege. So, with that being said, will you bow and pray with me, please? Almighty God, we give you thanks for all of the blessings you have poured out upon all of us this past year. And though it's been a difficult time for many of our citizens, we ask and believe that you will bless our country and the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2017. We thank you that we live in a country and a state where our leaders are elected by a majority of the people rather than selectively chosen by only a few. We thank you for our elected leaders, and we ask that you give them the wisdom to enact legislation that will enable our citizens to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Please bless this delegation and help everyone here to aspire to the highest ideals of their own personal faith, as well as to the high ideals of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Let there be a spirit of mutual cooperation in this chamber that crosses every boundary so that the will of the people will be carried out for the mutual benefit of all of our citizens. Please bless this day as we ask for your guidance on so many important issues, and help us remember to respond to your graciousness by giving you all of the praise and glory. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Thursday, February 9, 2017.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance, moved that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 2. Rule 36. 1.
Ayes 36, noes 2. Rule 36-1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the House. The senator from James City County.
Good morning, Mr. President. I would respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 2. And Senator Surville, you can read the communication.
Ayes 36, noes 2. Rule 36-1. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time has come to recognize visitors to the gallery and take up other matters for the morning hour. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request the journal reflect that my seatmate, Senator Stewart, is absent due to pressing personal business.
Thank you, Senator. The journal will so reflect that the senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart, is away from the Capitol on pressing personal business. The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, today's invocation was given by Reverend James Porter. Reverend Porter is a minister with the United Methodist Church in Midlothian, Virginia, and Chesterfield. Reverend Porter is a great man and leads us in prayer almost every year in the Senate. Please join me in thanking Reverend Porter for offering his prayer today, and he is accompanied by his wife, Elizabeth Porter.
Thank you, Senator. Would Reverend Porter and Miss Elizabeth Porter please rise? Thank you all so much for being with us this morning and getting us off to a good start. And it's always great to see you, and we always appreciate your message. So I hope you can come many times in the future. And we give you a little token of our appreciation, and I know you have many of those at home now. So we'll come by and maybe have a drink with you one day. So thanks for being here. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Reverend and Mrs. Elizabeth Porter the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I know you enjoy visiting Floyd County a great deal, as we ran into each other there at the Floyd Country Store one Friday night unexpectedly, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk with them yet today, but I'm told that we've got two constituents from Floyd in the gallery, Alex Hicks and Cameron Callahan, and I hope you'll give them the warm welcome as the Senate as they come here to watch government in action.
Thank you, Senator. Would Alex Hicks and Cameron Callahan please rise? Welcome from Floyd, Virginia. That's great. It's a ways, and my college roommate from VMI is a dentist in Floyd, so I often visit and really enjoy the area. And I like going to watch the Buffaloes play at Floyd County High School. So appreciate you being with us today. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Alex Hicks and Cameron Callahan the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the Senate actually stole this green sheet off Senator Saslaw's desk because I wanted to make this introduction. We have a group here from the Roosevelt Institute at George Mason University. It's a group of visiting scholars that both study and give advice and entertain debates on public policy issues. I actually had a debate there a couple years ago on drug legalization. I can't remember which side I took. It was that exciting, but they do a great job, and I'm glad to see them all here today. If we could give them a nice little welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Roosevelt Institute of George Mason University please rise? We're so glad you're with us this morning, and I enjoyed visiting with you this morning and talking about the different policies that you all are advocating for. And just to remind you, I know half went to the House and half went to the Senate this morning, and I'm glad that you all are in the upper chamber of Mr. Jefferson's Capitol. So we hope you have a wonderful visit here today and take in some of the history here at the Capitol, and safe travels, and keep working hard with your education endeavors, and best of luck from us. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Roosevelt Institute from George Mason University the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. We have a very distinguished visitor today from Roanoke County, and it is the esteemed wife of my fellow freshman senator, David Suderline. Ashley Suderline is up there. She's usually home way far out west, taking care of two beautiful children, 5 and 2. And so we're so happy that she's here today and could come spend a little bit of time with us. And she brought, I think, the cold weather with her.
Thank you, Senator. Would Miss Ashley Suderline please rise? Ashley, it's so wonderful to have you with us this morning. And as I remind the spouses, their spouses behave much better when you're here visiting. So we appreciate you being here today, and ask you to come as often as you can, and along with all the other spouses. So welcome, and hope you have a great day, and hope your husband will be able to spend some time this weekend back at home after a hard week's work. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Miss Ashley Suderline the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there any other business for the morning hour? If there are some guests in the gallery that we haven't recognized, welcome to you as well, and we hope you enjoy your stay today. The clerk will please call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Friday, February 10th, 2017, unfinished business Senate. Senate Joint Resolution 308, confirming appointments by the governor of certain persons communicated August 1, 2016. It has been agreed to by the House with amendment.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the resolution pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the resolution that has already been passed out of this body that I carried. This is the governor's appointments. It has been acted on by the House and sent back to this body. The House, as you can see, made an amendment. They removed the Inspector General, and they have sent it back to us with that amendment. The issue before this body is this. If we do not act on this resolution today, as it is before us, then all of the governor's appointments will lapse, will fail. So with that, I move that the resolution pass.
Senator, the proper motion would be that the amendment would be agreed to.
Pardon, I ask that the amendment be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would ask the lady if she would be so kind to yield for a question.
Did the senator yield for a question?
Yield.
She yields, Senator.
Mr. President, my question would be, if we fail to act on this resolution on the governor's appointments today, is there the opportunity to send down another resolution that we could subsequently act on?
Senator from Fauquier.
Mr. President, I would say no, there is no further opportunity to send down another resolution.
The senator from James City County.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all the questions that I have. Just being very direct about it, the House's belated action has put us in the Senate in somewhat of an awkward situation. And I won't say that I'm chagrined by it, but I'm not embracing it with great affection either. This is the last day that we could possibly act on this resolution, and as the senator from Fauquier said, if we do not act favorably, even though members of this body may have a dissenting view on the removal of the Inspector General, all the other gubernatorial appointments will expire. And to some of us, that may not be of a moment. To others, it may be of some concern. And I say, Mr. President, it's regretful that we find ourselves in this box at this hour, but it is what it is.
Thank you, Senator. And this will be a recorded vote. The question is, shall the House amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The amendment is agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 309, confirming appointments by the governor of certain persons communicated October 1, 2016. It has been agreed to by the House with amendments.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the amendments be agreed to, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the second of the governor's appointments that were passed by this body. The House amendments were to include 3 of the members of a commission that were actually removed by this body. They were put back in by the House, and I would ask that this body agree to that amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate agree with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The House amendment is agreed with.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that all the House bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all House bills on pages 2 through 4, including House Bill 1518 through House Bill 2460, be placed on their final passage in the block. Any senator who desires to remove a House bill from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 2 through 4, House Bill 1518 through House Bill 2400, be placed upon their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the bills.
House Bill 1518, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 1665, reported from the Committee on Finance.
Mr.
The
President.
senior senator from Richmond City.
Mr. President, could House Bill 1665 on page 2 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, House Bill 1665 will come out of the block.
House Bill 1814, reported from the Committee on Finance with amendment.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.
House Bill 1961, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2058, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2193, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2246, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2460, reported from the Committee on Finance with amendment.
Senator from Augusta County, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Mr. President.
The
Over here.
senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
House Bill 2460 come out of the block.
Without objection, House Bill 2460 will come out of the block. The question is, shall the House bills pass in block? That is, all bills except for House Bill 1665 and 2460. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The bills in the block pass. Returning to page 2, House Bill 1665, the senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass and speak to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. House Bill 1665 addresses the motion picture production tax credit. What it essentially does is extend the sunset date of the refundable film tax credit from January 1st, 2019 to January 1st, 2022. I hope it will be the pleasure of the Senate to support this measure.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1665 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 8.
Ayes 30, noes 8. The bill passes. On page 4, House Bill 2460, the senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass. I'd like to speak to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the committee. This bill is important to our budget this year in that it puts a limit on the amount of historic tax credit that can be claimed in a given year. And it does, the amendment that was placed on it sunsets it after this biennial budget. But the impact of the bill would be to cap that at $5 million per year. And in the impact on our budget, it will create an additional $9.9 million, which we've already spent or proposed to spend. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the Senate to pass the measure.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be real quick on this, but I understand we're trying to find money this year, but this tax credit does a lot of good in this state. I know of a project in Norfolk, I think, $50 million project that would never have happened but for the tax credits. There was another one in Norfolk that happened but for the tax credits. But I think ADP moved to Norfolk specifically into a building because of the tax credits. I talked to an investor, I think about a month ago, who told me that he was planning a $30 million project in Sussex, but he was canceling it because of the uncertainty we've created in this body by monkeying around with these tax credits. And so, I think that when we put caps on this and create uncertainty, we're going to be sort of preventing investment, preventing redevelopment. This is a good program that's actually improved a lot of downtowns all over the state. And I'm going to put a red light on it, but I think we're going to be seeing more of this. Well, I hope we don't see more of it next year, but I'm just worried this sends a signal to investors out there that we don't believe in this program and we're going to start monkeying around with it. So I don't think we should cap it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just speaking to the bill, I would only say in addition that the senator from Eastern Fairfax, is correct. It's a very popular program which is yielding big benefits throughout the Commonwealth. It currently is being studied within the Tax Preference Commission, and there has not been total agreement, but the development community that utilizes this tax was comforted by the fact that we did put a sunset on it. So I hope we will pass this bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2460 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 9, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 29, noes 9. Rule 36-1, the bill passes.
Regular calendar House bills on third reading. House Bill 1589, a bill relating to order of publication, use of electronic medium. The committee amendment has been adopted by the Senate.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendment be. Have we adopted the committee amendment?
Yes, we have, Senator.
All right, Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the bill,
the senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this bill simply gives the petitioner in a case in which an order of publication is to be used the ability to petition the court for permission to, for good cause shown, publish the notices online.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Mr. President, I speak against the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm not going to try and rehash what I said a couple days ago, but the point is still the same. The whole purpose of publicizing these orders or these pleadings is so not just the defendant is on notice, but the community is on notice. Oftentimes, the defendant may have left the jurisdiction, but a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, somebody might see it and might be in a position to alert the defendant. When we say that you can simply put the notice on an online a website controlled by the court, that's frankly meaningless. I mean, you might as well just take a paper airplane and throw it out the window because it's about the same effect. Also notice what we're doing is we're putting our judges in a very unusual position. We're saying for good cause shown, the court may direct, but we're not saying what the standard is. Are we saying, well, we tried to find the defendant, but they left. We did a Google search, but they left. You know, we can't find them. And the courts are going to say to us, look, we don't know whether or not we should issue an order here. I mean, we have very rigorous standards of process in Virginia for finding missing defendants. Now we're basically creating a back alley where nobody knows what's going to happen. I think this is a very unwise bill, and I hope we defeat it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I rise to speak in favor of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Some of the members of one of the committees may recall that I had a bill before the committee dealing with foreclosures, and some of you are more politically sensitive to the power of your local media than I happen to be. First of all, I take umbrage at the suggestion that this is a paper airplane on it. It is very interesting, Mr. President, I would say. As I pointed out before that committee, we are trying to move into the 21st century as it relates to providing notice to the general public. I shared with the body that there was already a provision in the Code of Virginia for providing for posting on websites and internets of certain notices. This is a second advancement of it. It was very interesting, Mr. President, afterwards when I had a discussion with a member of the press, I said, you know, first of all, the media, the written media is experiencing a fairly significant decline in their subscriptions to the written form of media, and I predict it will only accelerate as the millenniums come along. I am aware of young people who read the news every day who have never subscribed to a newspaper in their life, but yet they remain very well informed. I teach third-year law students at the College of William & Mary, and I had a representative from the media come to speak to them about talking to the media on the record, off the record, on background. And just on a whim, that reporter said, how many of these are third-year law students? How many of you get your news from a newspaper? Zero. And he was a little taken back. And the next question was, how many of you read the news every day? Every one of them. The point is that when I was having the discussion with the member from the media after the committee vote, I said, you know, you're already posting a lot of things on the media, and I shared with him the anecdote that I just shared with you all. He said, well, where do you think the news comes from? We're the ones that put it on the internet and on the websites. I said, oh, really? So you are discerning between that which you are advising the public of the news that goes on the internet and websites, but you don't want to put public notices on there, and there is only one reason, and it has nothing to do with informing the public. It is all about a profit center. And I suggest to you, Mr. President, that there are attorneys in here who are chronologically mature enough, and I use that term advisedly because some of us are not mature, but we're just chronologically mature. Yes, Senator Spruill, you would fall in that category. On it, that I remember when in the state system of courts and the federal system of courts, everything had to be submitted in a paper form. And then, lo and behold, the federal courts went to electronic filing, then they went to mandatory electronic filing. And you would have thought initially that Chicken Little had walked into the room, but it has worked out very satisfactorily. So I think this is a reasonable progression. And this suggestion about what is good cause shown, I can't tell you how many statutes there are that make the reference to good cause shown where we do not define it. And this is not some kind of aberration. It is an acceptable discretionary call that judges make.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman from James City County rise for a couple of questions?
Would the senator from James City County yield?
With enormous trepidation, sir.
He yields, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask the gentleman that do not the media outlets have the ability to print this information on their own?
The senator from James City County.
Mr. President, I would respond to the gentleman. I think parenthetically I had seen something. No, I don't read the newspaper, so I couldn't have found the information there. But somewhere I heard that, in fact, the Press Association was creating their own website. So that would suggest to me that they do have the capacity to do that, and perhaps they have opened one eye to the 21st century communication.
The senior senator from Chesapeake.
One further question, Mr.
The senator yield for an additional question.
No, reluctantly, sir.
He yields, Senator.
This is an easy one. Mr. President, I'd ask the gentleman from James City County if this is not really a government-mandated subsidy of press, the print media.
Senator from James City County.
You know, being an attorney and not much of one, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at being deflective, and I'll try to be at this point and say unequivocally, absolutely, yes.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank you, Senator. To the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, you know, whether this bill passes or not, the two newspapers that are going to be around long after all the others are gone are the Washington Post and the New York Times, okay? If there's only two papers left in America, that's going to be it. And the owner of the Washington Post, who owns Amazon, pointed out that, you know, in order to have a successful online, you've got to have a hard copy. Let me tell you this, if you come from an area that's got, and one other paper that might be around, because of who owns it, is the Richmond Times-Dispatch, which I think is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Virtually all the other papers are just going to continue to dwindle. And it's bills like this that'll just accelerate it. So if you live in a rural area or an area that just doesn't have a Washington Post, a New York Times, or maybe even a Richmond Times-Dispatch or a Los Angeles Times or San Francisco Chronicle. All you're going to do by voting for this is just accelerate when that demise comes, and it's going to come. And as the owner of the Post said, you need a hard print copy in order to make the online work. So, do as you may, but probably this is if you're looking for something to get rid of most of the hard copy papers in rural America, vote for the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I try not to agree too often with the senior senator from Fairfax because that gets back to my local paper and they print it. It's not good for my reputation. However, if I may dovetail on what he's just said, I disagree with this. Our local papers at the local level, the Franklin News Posts, the Martinsville Bulletins, the Patrick County Enterprise, they flourish. And in our area where I live, where economic indicators demonstrate that we're at half the level of income of the state level, and I've told you about that before, our education levels are different. We don't have access to broadband and internet to the degree that you all in your urban, suburban areas do, that those local papers are very important. I can tell you more often than not, more people come up to me and say, I saw you in the Franklin News Post, than they do any other medium. Our populations are older. My mom believes that the smartphone that she possesses is just for dialing her daughter up. And that's fine. In fact, my paralegal that I introduced today in legislative aid, introduced yesterday, we showed her how she could actually take a picture on her phone just yesterday. God bless her. But you cannot assume for a second that everyone is up to date as we think you are in your own area. There are people that depend on this. And especially if you think about it, Mr. President, those that are on fixed incomes, let's say it's a foreclosure, that may be the only notice they get. Or the only other notice that they're in Kroger and their neighbor said, hey, I saw your house is being foreclosed on. Well, where'd you see that? Well, I read it in the Franklin News Post. That's why I'm voting against this. And it's not to get rid of the press. Of course, as we move into better means of communication and more ways of communicating, that's great. But we cannot leave behind those that have not kept up. Mr. President, I still write my motions out on a yellow pad of paper and have my secretary type them. Yeah, I know. It's terrible. But it's the way I learned it. And so I'm voting no on this, and I urge the rest to do it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Briefly speak to the bill, sir.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I wanted to associate myself with remarks of the senator from Fairfax City and the senator from Franklin. To me, this is not about keeping newspapers in business. This is about the public's right to know. And I don't know about you, but I'm curious how many, or I know about me, but not about you. I'm curious how many people here go to websites and affirmatively seek out public notices and affirmatively read the obituaries? Because I don't. But, well, however, when I'm reading the print edition and I turn the page, I might look at something and catch my eye, and I think others look at it more carefully as well. You know, it says in the bill an electronic medium designated by the court. That can be the court's own website. People are not going to the court's own website unless they're lawyers and they don't necessarily know the parties who are named in these suits. So with that, I'm going to vote against the bill, and I would just ask you to reflect on which websites are designated by the court and without any further specificity in this bill.
Thank you, Senator. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteff.
Mr. President, speaking in favor of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I take a little offense when folks say, well, if you're in the rural area, you don't get the New York Times or you don't get the Times or the Richmond Times-Dispatch. You do get the Times. You can get the London Times right here on the internet. You can get any newspaper from almost around the world at any time over the internet. This is where we're going. That's where people go for their news source. I don't think my daughter's looked at a newspaper since she put it in the birdcage when she was 3. the newspaper she reads and all of the news she gets is online. So I think this is a progressively forward bill, and I'm surprised those on the other side of the aisle all don't see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, this idea you can see everything online works fine if you have broadband, but then a lot of people don't have broadband. One of the biggest challenges we in Virginia are facing is extending broadband to the rural areas. I represent areas that don't have broadband. It's a problem. So it'd be great if everybody had broadband, they could look everything online, and maybe the world would be a different kind of a world. But the fact is, we have a lot of people, whether Franklin County or Giles County or wherever, all over the Commonwealth, that don't have broadband and really rely heavily upon newspapers. They're weeklies. Some are dailies, many of them are weeklies, and people read them. They really read the weeklies more than we realize. And this is how we get the word out. I think this is a freedom of information issue to make sure people do see publications that when judges issue orders to publish something, whether it be and when we have foreclosure notices, or whatever it happens to be, people actually read these weeklies. I think it'd be a huge mistake to pass this bill, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morrison.
Just a quick thought that what I worry about here, and the reason I'm against the bill, is that we're kind of shifting away from newspaper people who have editors and people who check on what they're reporting. And in this age of fake news and misinformation and what have you, we're shifting more to the internet, where who knows the veracity of the news that people will be getting if we can't keep these newspapers going and keep them as healthy organizations. I just worry that we shift away, and God knows who's going to be giving us the news and whether it's true or not.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Northern Fairfax County, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking against the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I was very interested in the senator from James City County talking about the younger generation and how they don't read newspapers. But I'd like to remind them there's also an older generation, and I'm really proud to be in it. My husband and I subscribe to the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Financial Times. And every morning when we're together, we have a wonderful time sitting with our coffee and our 3 newspapers, sharing stories as we read them, and just cherishing our newspapers. I hope that the senator won't forget us old folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm wondering, my best friend from James City County, does she realize that people like us, and I think I'm about 10 years older than he is right now, that we're going to get old one day, and I'm old now. He spoke about the young folks, and I said, well, that's fine. But what about people my age right now? Let me tell you for an example. I don't use this thing right here. I have to read it. I have, this is for show. I had a Blackbird, and my granddaughter, because to school, she said, Poppy, can you leave your phone in the car? Because I'm used to pushing buttons. So 3 years ago, a lady came in my office. She would land me out because I didn't befriend her on Facebook. So I went into my office and I asked my chief of staff, I said, what is the Facebook? And she said, okay. So my granddaughter said, I got this phone right here. And so I'm on Facebook, Tweet, whatever. I don't do it. My office takes care of all of that. But I do know how to text, Senator. I know how to text. So I just text. So I'm saying, I wonder now, what about us old folks who are not like my granddaughter, who doesn't read paper? And we're not going to die all in one day. And Senator Norman, brother, you can get old one day. So when you get old, so the kids is right. So we can't just outdo it. Now, I do grant you now, if we were just getting rid of the paper, the newspaper folks, and keep the paper, I'll vote for that. Because they're not kind to me either. But still, I agree that I think that we don't want to rush too fast. Give us some time. Those of us who are old, give us time. And maybe 20, 30 years when when we pass on and the younger folks come up, maybe be ready for it. But sometimes I'm going to be here with you. We hope to be another 15, 20 years. Let me read while I can. And after I can, then we'll leave. Bless your heart. So thank you.
Thank you. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Very briefly, I want to remind the body that there are young people, middle-aged people, and elderly people who live in our urban cores. There are a lot of them here in the city of Richmond who live in every neighborhood that has a court after it, who don't have access to the internet, who don't subscribe to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, but they do get the Richmond Free Press because it's free. And when we go down the path of putting everything online, you need to remember not everybody is going to have access online, and it's not just the elderly, it's not just those in the rural areas, it's also the urban poor. And for that reason, I'm voting against the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I think we all know what's going to happen with this bill, but I just need to point some things out. Firstly, several folks have basically talked about how this is state aid to newspapers. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. And when your localities talk about, we don't know if we'll be able to match the state for a raise for our teacher because we've got several expenses, know that you have put this mandate on them. That's one. But something else I want to point out is there's an abundance of hypocrisy here, as the senior senator from Fairfax County has always told me on several issues. But all of us, there's a lot of differences here, but the one thing all 41 of us have in common, Mr. President, is we all successfully got elected to the Senate of Virginia. And in that, it was usually a competitive endeavor in a primary or general election. And as I heard every speaker rise up today to talk about how newspapers are the best way to reach folks, I was going through VPAP, which some of you might not be aware about. It's online. It's a website that a lot of people look at. And on VPAP, they break down how we're in these competitive endeavors trying to reach the general public, how we spend our money. And so apologies, I couldn't keep all the tabs open, so it's only going to be two of you. But I'd point out that the senior from Western Fairfax, who ran in very competitive races, his seat was previously held by a Republican. Some of you remember the Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli. He spent over $250,000 on mail and postage, $155,000 on TV and radio. And I got to go down to the very bottom. $3,150 on newspapers, and he represents Fairfax County. The other one I'd point out, my good friend from Roanoke City, who had a very, very competitive race this year, the previous year, three-way race. He spent, just in 2015, on radio, over $500,000 on TV and radio. And in newspapers, he spent $1,200. And so I would point out, we've got some very bright people here who have been very effective at reaching the general public with their message, and they've made very clear what they're going to do. I know what's going to happen to this bill, but we got to be honest. We know when we are spending our own money in a very competitive endeavor, how do we choose to spend it? And this is tax dollars where we have finite resources and great many needs. And the one last thing I'd want to point out is the patron of this bill, he doesn't represent Tyson's Corner. He is a constituent of the senator from Grayson, and most of his constituents live in Carroll County and Wythe County in my district, which even there, we've got internet. We'd love to have more and quicker internet. That'd be wonderful, but we have it there too. So with that, I support the bill and taking away this mandate as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, we've reached a point in this discussion where everything's been said, but not everybody's got to say it yet. So I decided that I had a couple of things to say that ought to be said. You know, my friend, the late, great Chip Woodrum, said an attorney is a lawyer who puts on airs. I've never considered myself an attorney. I'm a lawyer. And the notices we're talking about here are being published to provide people notice. There are 1.2 million people in the state that don't have access to broadband, that don't have internet. In areas of Highland County and Bath County that I represent, we didn't get telephones until the 1970s. We wouldn't have electricity today were it not for rural electrification. So the newspapers, the weekly newspapers that serve those areas are absolutely a source of information. This bill will deny, and people who might be on the run, they might be somewhere else, they may have moved away, they probably got a relative reading the newspaper, and the only way they're going to know that something's been filed is by seeing the notice in the newspaper.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, by the way, that wasn't all Chip Woodrum used to say, but I listened to what Senator Sitterline said. I got to tell you, I would be more than a little upset if the people on my side, and I suppose the same thing would go for the majority leader from James City County, if they were spending money on newspaper ads in a campaign. The general expenditures usually go to reaching the voters in the most efficient manner. And the most efficient manner sure isn't a full-page ad in the Washington Post. You are paying in northern, if you do that, you're probably paying $10,000 to $15,000 or more to reach not just the people in your district. You're paying to reach more than 2 million people in Northern Virginia. There's no votes for me in Arlington County. 4 precincts in west end of City Alexandria, Falls Church, and parts of Fairfax. Loudoun County, they're not going to vote for me. But I'd be paying to reach all these people. Same in Prince William. And that's why you don't see expenditures with newspapers. And if the senator from Roanoke County wants to spend his money on newspapers, have at it. But anyway, you've heard plenty of reasons here. The fact is that we've got large areas of the state that aren't serviced by that. We've got people, as was pointed out by the junior senator from Richmond, that it's not just the older people that don't use this or may not go online, but people of all ages coming from an income strata that just doesn't enable them to use the equipment necessary to access the internet. So with all that in mind, I would hope that this bill has gone as far as it's going to go.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, the bill may have gone as far as it's going to go, but the speaking hadn't. And I just want to throw a little bit of a wrench in here and point out I'm not quite sure what people are talking about, because I don't think they understand this bill. What this bill does is it does not end Western civilization as we know it. It is not going to spell the demise of our great newspapers. And I'm reminded of a little discussion that the senior senator from Fairfax and I had a number of years ago when I was so ill-tempered as to put an amendment on the desk when it was budget day that would have stripped the funding out of public radio. And the senior senator from Fairfax came over to my desk and said, Obenshain, that's going nowhere. But I want to tell you one thing. You ain't getting a dime for public radio in your area. And, Mr. President, my response there was, well, thank God that's one less liberal media outlet I got to deal with. Now, I'm not saying the same thing about newspapers here. Heaven forbid. I love you guys. But let me just tell you a couple of things about what this bill does and does not do. This deals with not foreclosures. And besides, the ads for foreclosures, they're not for the people who live in the house. They're for bidders, the people who are going to buy the house. And what this bill, this doesn't even apply to foreclosures. This is orders of publication, which is a narrow category of notices that are given. And before you think that this is going to spell the demise of our newspapers, let me point you to the actual language of the existing statute. Because the actual language of the existing statute gives our judges who, we're worried about, they don't know what good cause is all of a sudden. I mean, there are probably 500 places in the code where we say judges can do something for good cause. And now we don't trust them to make good cause determinations in this instance. But let me tell you, right now, judge has two choices with respect to orders of publication. One is he can order that it be published in the newspaper. Read this bill. The second choice is, what do we do? Where do we pick up our information? I know that the senior senator from Fairfax and we go hang out at the front steps of the local county courthouse all the time, right? Because the second choice is that if the order does not say it has to be published in the newspaper, it has to be posted by the door of the courthouse. So right now, the judge can exercise his judgment and say it either goes in the newspaper or by default, it just gets thumbtacked up by the door of the courthouse. What this does is says, Judge, look, there's a better alternative. If you're going to stick it up by thumbtacks by the door of the courthouse, why don't you at least say, put it online, someplace where you think that people might actually see it. And also, last time I checked, there aren't many orders of publication in the Financial Times of London that are going to impact people in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This bill does not do what all of you seem to think that it does. This is a modest measure that gives the judge one more option other than putting it up with thumbtacks by the door of the courthouse. So I would hope that the members of the body would set aside the rhetoric, not worry quite as much about the sensitivities of our outstanding newspapers in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and would trust our judges to exercise a little bit, a modicum of discretion that we trust them with every day.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you have a question.
Would the senator yield for a question from Rockingham?
You bet.
He yields, Senator.
Would the gentleman agree with me? The whole point of this bill is to replace the newspaper advertising with the selection of a website.
Senator from Rockingham.
That's the whole point of the bill.
Mr. President, I would absolutely disagree with the senator from Fairfax City. The point of this bill is to vest in our judges a matter of discretion and to give them a third choice.
Further question.
Would the senator yield for an additional question?
Can he name me another statute in this code?
He yields, Senator.
Can you name me another statute in that code which allows a judge to select a website?
The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, if we want to continue this until tomorrow, or Monday, so we can debate this further, I'd be more than happy to find the senator some references, because they are in there.
Mr. President, move the pending question. I think we've got all 39
Senator,
people
we're
present.
finished. If you could withdraw that motion, I'm going to call for a vote. The question is, shall House Bill 1589 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
I think we closed it.
Ayes 15, noes 22.
Ayes 15, noes 22. The bill does not pass. The senator from senior senator from Chesapeake.
I can't do it. Sorry.
House Bill 1681, a bill relating to transient occupancy tax state parks. The committee amendment has been adopted by the Senate.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. As the members would recall, this was on the calendar yesterday, and there was a division of thought on whether this was a good bill or a bad bill. When it was in the Finance Committee, because it had some fiscal impact, about $75,000, we put the contingency clause on it would make it subject to funding. There's still some, I guess, not unity of thought on this measure, and I would move that it be re-referred to the Senate Finance Committee.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1681 be re-referred to the Committee for Finance? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is re-referred.
House Bill 1950, a bill relating to local cigarette taxes, refund of returned tax stamps, reported from the Committee on Finance.
The Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass and speak to that motion.
The Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, this particular bill would clarify that localities that impose a local cigarette tax must refund the purchase price of any stamp purchase to evidence the payment of the tax without penalties or additional fees. Mr. President, I would say that the current law is that if these stamps are returned, that the payments or the face value of the stamps is refunded and should be funded under current statute. This bill simply clarifies that any accompanying penalties and fees would also be refunded. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the Senate to support the measure.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1950 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The bill passes.
Mr. President.
The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the previous side in which HB 15, or the prevailing side in which HB 1589 passed, not that I really want to relitigate the issue, but I now move that the vote be reconsidered.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1589 passed be reconsidered? Did not pass. I'm sorry. Be reconsidered.
Right.
My mistake. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
Mr. President, speaking to the... Having previously been explained, I move that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1589 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 26.
Ayes 13, noes 26. The bill does not pass.
House Bill 2198, a bill relating to coal tax credits, reported from the Committee on Finance.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I move that the bill pass. Speak to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, this bill relates to the coal tax credit. It is identical to a bill previously passed by the Senate, and I would yield to the senator from Russell for an explanation.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Russell, Senator Chafin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we all know what this bill is. I think we know what it does. I think we all know what it means to my region, to Southwest Virginia, the only region that has coal production. And we passed the bill out when it was my bill. It passed out of this chamber with some nonpartisan support, and hopefully we can pass it out today. I ask and urge the senators in the chamber to vote for this important piece of legislation.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2198 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 15.
Ayes 24, noes 15. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that all the House bills on the second reading on the uncontested and regular calendar on pages 6 through 35. That is 29 pages, including all House bills, including House Bill 1405 through House Bill 2431, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 6 through 35, House Bill 1405 through House Bill 2431, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County.
Mr. President, I respectfully move that all the bills now be passed by for the day.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that on page 40, HJR 865 be taken up out of order.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and HJR 865 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The clerk will please read the title.
House Joint Resolution number 865, commending Reverend Dr. John William Keeney.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The junior senator from Richmond City.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the resolution pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to advise the body that the reason that I spent so little on newspaper advertising is that the local press is so excited about my candidacy that I get all my good press for free. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any other business?
Mr. President.
The senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Rise for the purpose of an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Today is a fantastic day, and it is a fantastic day because of my seatmate, the senator from Petersburg. It is her birthday. So I'd ask the members of this body provide a fantastic happy birthday. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. If the Senate would join me in giving the senator from Petersburg a round of applause for a happy birthday. The clerk will please report any announcements on the desk.
Monday, February 13th, the Committee for Courts of Justice will meet at 8 a.m., Senate Room B. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Public Education will meet at 9 a.m., third floor East Conference Room. Senators Carrico, Donovan, Howell, Locke, and Peake. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1. The weekend weather report. Saturday will be dry with temperatures ranging from the low 30s to the mid 60s. Sunday will bring a chance of rain throughout the Commonwealth with temperatures in the 70s along the southeastern portion of the state. Happy golfing.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on Monday.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon on Monday? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon Monday.